We're going to go to My Business first. That's what we're going to do, and then we're going to do this. Executive decision. So if we have to change up our information, we could change that up here. We have our system settings. So what is our time zone? This will enable our estimates on your dashboard to show state, federal tax. Salon information. So key code, essentially, if you're at a spot that requires a key code, you can put this in as, put the key code in here, and in any of your messagings, in particular, maybe like a 1 hour before appointment, you could put in a variable called key code. And what will happen is it will replace with your key code here. Now, the reason why we added this is because there was specific use cases for people that had home salons where they would change their key code on a daily basis or every couple days. And so they wanted to update that key code and make sure it automatically gets sent out. So that was the option here. So that's like if you had to put a key code in to get into a building or get into your salon, you could put that in. Calendar settings. So time scale. What this means is we've got hour, 30-minute, 15-minute, 10-minute, 5-minute. And so that's going to show you when we think of slices, right, in our calendar. So selectable, highlightable areas, that's going to show that. So, you could select, again, hour, 30-minute, 15-minute. Honestly, I always just recommend 30-minute. It keeps it as nice and compact, but still see sort of everything and still have the most clickable options. Remember calendar location. What this will do is when you're in your calendar, let's say that you have to go a couple months in, and then we have to leave the calendar and come back. Remember, calendar location will put you right back to where you were at, as opposed to setting you back to today. Appointment color blocks is something that I talked about a bit earlier. When this is toggled, your appointments will show up with the colors that you set as your services. Show holidays is exactly what it sounds like. It will show holidays for you. Group services. So for the Gloss Genius users that are old Gloss Genius users or people familiar with Gloss Genius, they do what's called group servicing versus maybe a Vagaro individual is used to seeing your services individually as a part of an appointment. So when this is toggled off, we're going to see each service on your calendar. When toggled on group services, it's going to be one appointment block slot and all the services will be inside of there, right? So it's about how you visually want to see it. And then show appointment padding. This will give you a visual indicator when group services is toggled to say, here is any prep time or post time, and visually it's different. Now, limit viewable calendar. A lot of people will set this and then say, oh my gosh, I can't see all my appointments. So this literally changes. So in your app, when you're looking at start to end date for, start time to end time for your calendar, this effectively will shut off. So if you don't want to see anything before 7 a.m., right, you never have bookings there, then just set it to 7 a.m. And then the same goes for your end time. So it's going to scrunch that and just show you that timing. But what happens a lot of the time is that people will set that to their average business hours. But then what ends up happening is somebody calls them and they say, oh, it would be really nice if you could fit me in at 8 o'clock. And so what will happen is they can't see it, right? Because we've cut off our viewable calendar space. And so we'll get a support question that says, hey, I can't see this appointment. And it almost always is this limit viewable calendar. So be aware, but it still is nice to be able to limit your viewable space so you're not scrolling up and down and you don't see stuff you don't need to see. If you need to import your calendar to show up on your personal calendar, if you're on GG, you will be familiar with this. You would go ahead and you would copy this link and then you would put it in as an external calendar. You can view setup instructions here if you've never done that before. And then goal settings, so weekly goal, monthly goal, yearly goal. So just pop those in and then we'll show you some additional information on your dashboard. And then review URLs. This is what Desiree was talking about. So when we pop these in, this is where we're going to send people to leave reviews for you. So Comb, by default, although you can leave reviews for clients in Comb, clients cannot review you on Comb, at least right now as it stands, because I find the practice to be a bit predatory. The issue with it is if we have like 100 of your 5-star reviews, and then you decide, oh, I hate Comb now, I don't want to use Comb anymore, but then you decide you want to leave. Well, the problem is that we have 100 of your 5-star reviews. So what you'll do here is that again, we want to send them out. So then this way, if you decide Comb's not for you, you will still have all your reviews sitting somewhere else, right? I want you to stay with Comb because you like Comb, not because you feel like you have to stay with Comb. And then silent appointments. What this is if you toggle this on, it gives your clients the opportunity when online booking to say, I'm not up for chatting during this appointment. So again, it's a way to do that. And then gift certificates. If you want to sell gift certificates, you will toggle this on as well. Notifications. This is going to be so your account level notifications, 30-minute reminders from push notifications, daily digest. What this is this is going to send you a text message every morning that says what your schedule is for the day. So it's like a little wake up. It'll go out at 7 a.m. your time. Client notifications. So this is going to be when we're reminding clients about appointments. When are we sending them? So 72, 48, 24, 1. You can add price estimates on here. Some people like it, some people don't. You can turn that off. And yes, Jen, the 30-minute reminder is absolutely for you. Now, if you need to modify any of those notifications, so the 72, 48, 24, or 1 for the notifications for the appointments, you can add some custom information here. So you might put like your address in there as an example. Like, hey, don't forget, here's our address, and then maybe put a Google Maps link in there, or instructions for getting inside. You might want to do that. So you've got options to do that here, and then your receipt text message. This is what is set by default. I probably wouldn't change it unless you absolutely positively needed to. Availability, we have our business hours. We set those, our scheduled breaks. Again, this is just toggleable, and select your times here. If we want to set a scheduled break, say, okay, this is filtered based on what we have here. You can see we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's our options here. Skip Thursday, we take a break between 9 and whatever, hit add, that shows up in this list. And now we have a break schedule. And then time off. So we've got our options here. So you can do a single day as an example, or you can say, okay, I'm taking off this entire week, and then add, and then that will go ahead and add it to the, well, actually, I just did a time frame that was already here. So that is my fault. I do dumb stuff sometimes. If we have taxes, we can select our taxes here. So we say, okay, what's our effective tax rate? It's gonna be 0.65. Illinois tax. Create. We have our tax here. And then if we want to set our default, we can go ahead and say Illinois tax. We have our stupid South Dakota 20% tax, or our product tax, or a no tax. General. So if you want to turn off automatically sending receipts, you can do that. Tip suggestions. If you want to turn tips on for services only, you can toggle that. And then you can disable tipping altogether. If you want to create, you can customize your options. So you can say, okay, well, I've got maybe 5, 10, 15, 20, and then maybe I only want 4, and then set this as my default, and then we can save our tips. And so now it's going to be 5, 10, 15, 20, with 10 being our default that we would show to people if they were doing a checkout. Colony is a whole thing, so we're not going to talk about that today. And Stripe, when you have Stripe connected, you could go ahead, if you have to add a reader from here, you would say add reader. Stripe will give you a code. The Stripe reader will give you a code. You pop that in, pop your label in, and it will be added. So then you have your reader. This is also where you would set, if you want buy now, pay later options on, you would toggle them on here. We do offer all Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay. And then always collect credit card. This is on by default when you connect Stripe. I would highly suggest not turning this off. Client transaction fee. So when this is toggled on, what will happen is this will push the transaction fee onto your client, so you're not taking the hit on it. Excellent. All right, cool. So where we're going to start, we're going to talk about the calendar. So we get a lot of questions about this, and this is going to be generalized overview. Going to go over a couple different pieces. So again, I'm showing the desktop view, but this works whether you're in desktop or whether you're in mobile view. So either way, it does not matter. You will have the same functionality in roughly the same spots too. So when we're looking at this and we're going to say, okay, this is our week view. We have our 3-day view, our day view, and our month view. By hitting today, and there's another action item on your mobile that looks like a day, that will take you to obviously that day or that week where that day resides. When we click any of the days, what you'll notice is that we've got options here. So we got new appointments, new personal time. This is a shortcut to the wait list, and our edit hours. So if we need to do full on availability, we're going to be doing that in the My Business availability section. But if we have to change the hours of, let's say, July 4th, right? So I decided I'm taking today off, and it's normally a day that I am working. You would hit that day and we would hit edit hours. And then we're just going to toggle the day off. That will go ahead and bring this day off. Not too bad. If we need to just adjust the day for not the whole day, but we want to adjust some timing, we can do that by hitting the edit hours and then selecting our start time and our end times. And that would go ahead and that would change up our timing here. And so if we edit the hours, you can see here now that this has gone ahead and modified that as well. And you can see that we do have waitlist up here in the upper area. We'll get to waitlist a little bit later, but that does exist there too. So if we want to go and we want to create a new appointment, there's a couple different ways to do it. On mobile, you're going to see a plus, and that will give you the opportunity to hit and create a new appointment. From our desktop view, we are going to be clicking a time block, and we are going to hit new appointment. When that happens, we're going to have our, we're going to see our create appointment area. We're going to have our current schedule, our next availability, and our selecting of a client. So if we hit select client, we can pick anybody. I'll pick myself. And then we're going to get, so Wingman's going to pop up. Wingman is one of our workers. If you have this turned on, it's going to be the things that I book the most. So we could say, okay, well, let's go ahead and add a haircut. Now, this also is going to utilize timing, specialized timing. So when you make adjustments to the time of that particular service for me, what will happen then when you go ahead and you book this way, it's going to adjust it automatically. So you don't have to make those little minor modifications. You can add additional services. We do have an option of creating silent appointments. So sometimes people will do that as a service. You don't have to do that in Comb. There is in the My Business area, you'll be able to toggle allow silent appointments, and then this becomes an option for your client or for you. This is also where we would make reoccurring. So if it's reoccurring, we would select the type. So if it's weekly, we could say every 3 weeks, or if it's monthly, we can say monthly, does not really matter. Don't notify. What this means is that when you create this, your client's not going to get the initial messaging. It doesn't stop additional messages from coming out. So reminders, that kind of a thing. But when we hit don't notify, it is going to stop that initial creation message. Once it's created, and if we go back over to appointments, it would show up on here. Now, if we have to edit an appointment, we would hit the appointment itself, and then we would go and we would hit edit. A lot of people ask us, okay, Mike, what does, I want to confirm this for my client. I don't want them to have to confirm it themselves. This is where you would do that, and you would just go ahead and hit confirmed, and we would hit update. Now, we do have the behavior score on here. So anybody that has did a demo with me or read anything about us, this is going to be your client's behaviors. Something to bring up. So we also get another, a lot of people ask us, well, I went ahead and I canceled an appointment for a client, and now that's affecting their score. So if we look at this and we say, okay, we have a client cancel and a no-show, if we hit client cancel or no show, in particular client cancel, that's going to go ahead and that will generally affect it. Now, if you do the red button, which is this one, right? This is you canceling it. So we would go ahead and we would cancel. If you're going to do a reschedule, edit the original appointment and you can mark it as a reschedule, but don't cancel it and recreate, especially if you're doing a client cancel, unless that's your goal. If your goal is for it to be earmarked that way, then you absolutely can do that, but I would highly recommend not doing that. Now, if we're also here, we can say, okay, well, let's go ahead and let's create some personal time. So we can hit anywhere on the calendar. Again, we select our time block and we can say, okay, new personal time. So we would give it a label of some kind. So, vacation, if I can spell vacation as an example, and then we could say, okay, this is going until 2 o'clock. Now, we can set this as repeating. So we could say, okay, this actually repeats on Wednesdays and Fridays. And now if we want this to be modifiable, meaning at some point in the future, we might want to adjust at an individual level what this might be, we would toggle this, and then we would have some additional functionality. So we're going to say, okay, this might be every 3 weeks, we want this. Or actually, let's go with every 2 weeks. So sometimes what will happen with people's schedules is they'll say, okay, every other week, my Friday is off. This is how you would do something like that. So I would untoggle this and I would say Friday, and I would make this an all day personal time, right? And so what then will happen is that even though your generalized availability shows Friday as available, once you pop the personal time in that's going every 2 weeks, that's going to block that out. So that's going to help you adjust for more complex schedules where you're going to say, okay, well, every other, maybe every third Wednesday I have off. This is another way that you can manage that too. So both ways, whether we're going with the advanced, we're doing the standard repeater, or we're creating them individually, this will go ahead and, again, we'll be able to make these appointments a bit more, not appointments, your schedule a bit more curated for you. Now, when we're thinking about calendars in general, we do have our day, 3-day, week, and month. So I'm going to pop in here and I'm going to say, okay, well, let's look at a day. Not a big deal. We're looking at that, our 3-day view. Again, that's always going to be anchored to that Sunday. Our week, this is going to be the week. And then we've got our month. Now, our month, we get a lot of questions about. So let me sort of explain that. When we've got a lighter gray here, as opposed to the darker gray, that's going to mean that we have personal time on that day. If it's gold, that means that something's booked. So doesn't matter what it is, it's got something's booked that day. And then we've got the 3 dots. So those will correspond to the morning, afternoon, and evening. And then it's green, yellow, red, black. So green means I have availability, whether that maybe you have an appointment in there, but you've got a lot of options still, that's going to load up as green. Yellow is going to mean exactly how it sounds. It's kind of filling up, but we do have some spots still open. And then red is going to mean almost completely closed. And then black means nope, no go. We can't do any bookings here. And so that, again, is really going to help you at a glance. If you're on a phone call with somebody and they call in and they're like, hey, what do you have available coming up? If I go and I look at my July, I'd be able to say, okay, on the, if they're like, oh, I need a morning appointment. Now, in my instance, right, it's pretty open. But if you had, timings in here where you've got some yellows, some reds, at an easy glance, you're able to say, okay, I've got some mornings available, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? And so then this person say, oh, Thursday sounds great. And then when you click that, it's going to pop out all your available slots. And so all you need to do at this point is click one of those slots, and then that's going to earmark this, and then we can go and we can say new appointment, and we can build it out from there. All right. Now, let's talk about online booking here real quick. In particular, now, some of this, I understand is relatively straightforward. So how you can, who can book each day, accepting new clients. What's really cool is we can limit new clients. So we can say, I'm only taking 5 new clients per month. So that's kind of neat. We have our social media, some custom links. So if you maybe sell Salon Interactive, something like that, you can go ahead, add your links here. We obviously have our portfolio. FAQ. So this is going to be your information that shows up as part of an FAQ. Set our background image. Who could book each day? So you can limit and say, I only want existing clients booking on Tuesdays as an example. You can also say no clients. Use case for this is that you have openings that day, but you want to only manually book people and you still want to have that visual. This is my open time, but people aren't booking online, right? So that would be options as well. Where people run into the biggest questions is the appointment configuration section. So appointment approval, you've got always auto accept, auto approve existing clients, or never auto approve. Basically what these are is, do I have to accept an appointment or not accept it? So never auto approve means I have to look at every appointment and accept or decline them. Auto approve existing clients means that if existing client, we don't have to accept it, they're good to go. And then always auto accept, but if you're new, you have to have it. And then always auto accept means it's on your calendar right away. There's no reviewing, there's nothing. Appointment lead time. Someone asked, how do we set it so we can't book today? This is where you would set that. So in your circumstance, I think you said a day. So we would say, 24 or 48 hours. So maybe 24 hours lead time. Appointment search interval. So this means when we're looking at openings in the online booking, when someone gets to their date time selections, it's going to say, are we looking at every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, every 15, every 20, every 30. So you're going to have, well, I guess we don't have 10 or 20. So it's 5, 15, 30, 45, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours. So 15 is the default. If you're an esthetician and you have shorter services like every 10 minutes, perhaps you might want to set it to 5. Stylists, you guys are okay setting it to 15. Advanced days limit. Basically what that means is, how far into the future can I book starting from today? So 180 means 6 months essentially. So from now I can book 6 months out. And then tomorrow it'd be 6 months out from then, right? So it's always from today. How far out can we do this? There is a different dynamic though. So rolling books. So what you can say is, what's our anchor date? So let's say that we set our default anchor to, let's go May. Oh, we want to set it to May 2025 though. May 2025. First, and then let's say 1 month is fine, because I want to sort of describe the reason why we have our anchor is because we have to know how to count from there on forward. So let's say May 1st, 2025. So that's obviously this month, and then 1 month out. So what happened when this was set up is that on the 1st of this month, June's books opened up. So now they could book for June. They cannot book past June. They can now book June. June 1st, July's books will open up, right? So now they can't put past July, but now July's books are open. So you could do this up to 3 months. So if we did it this way, now May 1st would have opened up June, July, August. Now, when we get to August 1st, what will happen is September, October, November will open up, right? So it gives you more control over booking stuff in the future, and it creates a little bit of an event out of it, right? Because people know your book's open on the 1st on X cadence, and so they'll be looking for it. You can send a marketing message out that says books are open for X months, go and get it, and then it creates a little bit of a sense of urgency, which is always kind of nice. Require forms waivers for rebooking. So if they decided they weren't going to fill stuff out, this forces them to do so. Cancellation time limits and reschedule time limits. When they're managing appointments online, they do have the options to cancel or reschedule if you set them. You can see you can disable it. But what this means is, up to 48 hours before the appointment, I can cancel it myself. If it's 48 hours or sooner to the appointment or closer to that appointment, then if we're within that window, I can't do it online anymore. I have to call you. The same goes for your rescheduling time. So usually these are about the same in fairness. Client reschedule count. What this means is that when we have our appointment, and let's say I go to reschedule it, I can only reschedule that appointment as many times as is in this dropdown. So if I say 2, as an example, I can only reschedule this appointment for myself twice before it won't let me anymore and I have to call. Confirmation window, this is the timing for when they get the message to say, hey, confirm your appointment. So usually we don't want it too far ahead, right? We don't want it a month ahead. We don't want them to be able to confirm an appointment a month ahead of time because too many variables, too much stuff can go wrong. So 7 days, you can do, usually 4 to 5 days. You want to give it enough time that if they say, oh, shoot, I've got this appointment, I can't do this appointment anymore, it gives you an opportunity to fill that gap. But you go ahead and set your confirmation window, and that will send them a message that says, hey, you have to confirm. And then deposit timeouts. This is literally, if you set this and say 48 hours as an example, if you create an appointment for somebody and we message them their deposit payment link, like you don't have a card on file, so we can't charge them right then. So we send them the link. If they don't pay that within this time frame, that appointment's gone. It's canceled. If we choose to have the online cancellation disabled, does it send clients a text to have them text us to reschedule or cancel? I mean, it doesn't say, we're not going to send them a specific message that says, if you would like to cancel, call or whatever. That can be on the appointment management side when you click in to manage the appointment. So total, they're getting 2 notifications for their appointment. No, they would have a total potential of 5 if you turn them all, well, and 6 technically if you include the created at appointment. So you could have up to 6 reminders in theory, because you have the options of 72-hour, 48-hour, 24-hour, 1 hour, which was back on the My Business area. And then we've got our confirmation, which is that one, and then the created at also. So we've got 6 total, potentially. Yes, they get told that they get a warning that it's going to be canceled, and then they get a message that says it's been canceled. Yes. Yep. They get actually 3 messages on that, because on the create, it tells them it's going to be canceled. And then if they get close to it, then it's going to remind them and say, hey, you got to pay this. And then last but not least, sorry, it was canceled because you didn't pay. Like, definitely only turn this on if you are confident you're comfortable with the enforcement. Because it will automatically cancel the appointments. So if they're actively not paying attention, like, it will definitely go away. So that's our online booking. And just to show you again, I'm going to go back to the My Business area real fast because we did have a couple questions about those. So notifications, these are our reminder notifications here. So the 72, 48, 24, and 1. And again, the default is actually, this is our default. And I kind of recommend keeping it at the default, but you can do whatever works for you. QR code. So that is going to generate a QR code for you. So generate QR code. We can select our sizing. So let's say 400 dot color. Fine. Generate. And then what will happen is we have our QR code. We could download this as an image. And this is a QR code to your online booking. So it will run through. We're going to talk about clients. So if we were to go, we can create a client, right? So first name, last name, cell phone is required. Email is optional, is not required if the user is already in the system, because remember, we're going to use cell phone numbers as keys. So that's really important. Again, we're not going to have duplicate phone numbers in Comb. So when we go ahead and we create that first name, last name, cell, if they already exist, it'll just load in the profile. Otherwise, what will happen is we'll create a new one. So if we go and we look at my profile as an example, we've got our information here. So some things I don't talk about really, when we think of client profiles and we think about Comb having single source of record, meaning that this profile, who I am, me, points to multiple service providers potentially. We do know that there's some shared information, some not shared information. So shared information would be that client score that we kind of always talk about. So when we think of that client score, it's out of 5. And you may have seen it. And one of the ways to get to it, oh, I'm back in the back into the here. If I go and I hit the new, when we look at and say, okay, we're going to look at Mike, we can see that behavior score. This score is the score that is me. And I'm not great. I no-show myself a lot, but that would be something that is shared, right? Some shared information. The other bits that are shared, cell phone number, email, first name, last name. Now, nickname and pronunciation. So what happens is that if you put a nickname, now this is for you. So if you put a nickname in, what will happen is it will go ahead and it will replace their name visually for you with whatever that nickname is for them. So if their full name is, Michael, we'll use me as an example, but the nickname is Mike, then you could put Mike as the nickname and that will automatically get swapped out. Pronunciation, so you'd be like, right, I don't know, something like that, right? So if it's something that you have to remember. So these are for you, clients don't see it, other service providers don't see it, nothing like that. Notification settings are also unique to you. If this is a client that you trust and you don't have to worry about it, like you don't have to worry about them, you can disable their deposits at the client level. So if you say, okay, this person never has to pay a deposit, and this trumps everything. So if you go ahead and you toggle this on, it does not matter. It doesn't matter with Sting, which we'll talk about a little bit later, or if you have service level deposits, this will always trumps it. So if you toggle this, that client will not need to pay deposits. Disabling online booking. So this is going to disable it just for this client. So if this is a person that you're just like, listen, I don't trust you, you're not booking yourself, you have to call me, you can disable. You also have the option for a custom message just for them. If you turn this on for that person, what will happen is it'll just say, I'm sorry, online booking's not available right now, please contact service provider such and such. So that's essentially what that will be. If you want to give them a more specific bit of information, you can type that in the disabled message here, and that will go ahead and take care of that. And that will display for them and them only. Appointments. So these could be upcoming and previous appointments. You'll see the status, if it's a checked out appointment, we'll see what it ultimately ended up settling at as far as money wise. And some additional information, sort of what was the, what were the services performed? How long was it? That kind of a thing. Notes. So when we think about notes, we have options. So, we're going to say what kind of type, what's the type? What are we doing? Is this a formula? Is it an allergy? Is it a style? What kind of note are we making? Maybe a formula. So we'll put the title in, we'll put the note in, and then we could create that. And that is now our formula note. Now, something that you can do in Comb also is we could say, okay, well, I want to use notes as reminders. So maybe there's something that you have to, want to remind yourself about something about somebody. So you would say, okay, I'm going to pop that note in. Maybe you gave them a product to try, or you taught them a technique, or the person's going on vacation, or anything like that. You want to ask them. So pop that in, and you're going to say, okay, remind me 15 minutes, or at appointments, or I guess after 2 also, but that would be maybe for something else. But we say 15 minutes before that appointment, remind me about this. And then if you toggle delete after next appointment, this is quite nifty. This is for information that we don't need forever, right? Because often when someone writes a note, unless it's a formula, it can be, like maybe you're giving them 10% off the next time they visit. That would be something that you really only need to see the next appointment. After that, you don't need it anymore. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to stop that sort of ever-growing list of notes that can happen occasionally. So that will go ahead and take care of that. Now, again, a lot of people do ask also, and we're going to have to talk about it a little bit later, but our notes currently, as it stands, we do what's called service level filtering. So what that means is that at the service level, we're going to say these are the types of notes that we want to see on the appointments. So when you look at an appointment card, you will, any services where we've got those note type filters, that's going to say, okay, this is what we want to view. So if we only, let's say it's a color service and that's all we want to see is formulas, then we would select formulas in there. So that's going to be service level filtering. Now, the reason why I bring that up now is because sticky notes break through that. So if you set that filtering up, a sticky note will always break through and show on the appointment card. Additionally, allergies will also always show up on appointment cards, irregardless of any specific filtering you might do. So those will always show up. Display on calendar, what this does is it allows you to, let's say that you had something short. So like a lash map as an example, when you title display on calendar, it will show literally on this appointment here when we're looking at it. So you wouldn't have to necessarily click in to see what the notes are. It would go ahead and that would show right here. So if you have something shorthand, it might be quite useful to be able to do that from that place. Let's go back over to our notes. Let's go back to add note. Well, actually, I think I got through all of them. Those are all the different configurations that you can do. Titles are not required, but they are nice. So if you're looking at something at a glance, you can see, okay, well, this is my fall formula versus my spring formula for this person. So we do have those options. Right. So photos. I mean, I don't really have any any demo of this, but you just hit upload photos, or on your phone, you hit the plus and then select upload photos. These photos are just for you. What can happen is from this point, you're going to be able to say, okay, I want to I want to take this photo and I want to transfer it to my portfolio. You can do that as well. So that would show up then on your online booking. Just kind of a nice quick way to say, okay, I need this over here too. So then that will show up in the actual online booking itself. Purchases is pretty straightforward. When we're looking at this, we're going to say, okay, these are the services that have been booked. How many times have they been booked? When was the last time it was booked? Products, this is going to be purchased products. Packages, if packages were purchased, that's what these will show up here as well. And then visits. So these are actually what visits are remaining on services that came from the packages that were bought, right? So we could see at a glance, okay, this person has 5, and I guess this person, by this person I mean me, I have 5 acne facial visits remaining from this package that I have purchased. So at a glance, you can see this and go, okay, this is how many. If somebody asks, that will go ahead and you'll be able to review that. Now, waivers, anything signed or well, we'll talk waivers first. So when a waiver is signed, you're going to see it on here. This will always show your status. So whether it's incomplete or pending, or if it's completed, when it's completed, you do have this download button. So when you hit this, that will download a copy for you, just, onto your personal machine. Nothing too crazy. We know a lot of people have asked about maybe a new spot for waivers and forms. So, like they would stay here. You can still find them on the client record, but maybe somewhere else where it's more searchable instead of having to go into each client record to grab the thing that you need. Like, oh, I want to see the last 10 waivers that were signed, right? So those types of things are coming, and they would be under the actual waiver sections. So the waiver and the form sections, that's where those would show up. The same thing goes for forms. So, we've got our different forms here that I filled out over time. And you can see what you could do is you can view them at a glance, right? So we can view what was written, or we could download them so we can keep, a PDF copy for us locally, or for you locally. When I say us, I mean you. Dependents. So this is going to be, those are those partial accounts that we talk about. So, this would be a dependent account that's associated with mine. Has basically all the same stuff. One of the main key differences is that you can't review for a dependent account, right? So we all know, or at least most people would know at this point, that we do offer reviews, right? So we can write reviews on our clients. Super good question, Eden. So basically, you don't have to put the client's phone number in for the dependent. It automatically will send, when you book the dependent, it will automatically be notifying that parenthetical relationship, that parent account is going to get the notifications. Now, when you create a dependent, now you can make these, or your client can make them if you're, it doesn't really matter who, but let's pretend they're a little bit older. Like dependents, the most common use case is kids, but often, it could be, a partner that just doesn't book for themselves. And so they, their partner books for them. So that's an option. And maybe older adults that don't book for themselves anymore. That's also an option. Now, we have had some questions recently about what's the potential for adding dependents to be shared amongst profiles, which is a super great question. And the answer is that right now they are associated with a single profile. So in this instance, these are associated with me. However, we are exploring the opportunity to share them with additional profiles to make them more like a family group setting. So that is, it's something we're investigating. I don't have any timing on that right now, but I just felt that I should probably bring that up. Cards, this would be cards on file. Any cards on file that is through online booking or that we store here would show up here. Oh, then reviews. So when we're writing a review, there's some rules around this. So number one, your clients cannot see reviews that you wrote about them. So that's number one. So I want you to know. Number two, you have to have checked them out. You have to have seen them. You have to have checked them out. That is another requirement. You go ahead, say, okay, this is 5-star, pop the title in, pop your review in. Is this a red flag client? Do we want them to do this? Yes. Okay, create review. Now, what happens though, is that let's say that I am a service provider and someone's coming to book with me. They've already been seen by somebody in the Comb ecosystem. And so they have a review on file. What you'll see is, okay, another service provider left a review of, let's say, myself. Let's just use me as an example. And so they'll see like 3-star, 2-star, red flag. Okay, but they can't read the review. They don't know who wrote it. And so that they can request to read it, that other service provider. Then what will happen is that other service provider gets the notification that says, hey, so-and-so wants to read your review. And then that person can determine in that moment, is this someone that I would want to go ahead and give access to this to, and then they can approve or disapprove. Now, Eden, the reason why we have reviewing, and I may have just brushed over this in the beginning, so I should mention this again. So client profiles are a single source of record in Comb. So like this profile for me, Mike, whether I'm booking with, I'll use Shanna, I'll use an example because you're on the list here. So whether I book with Shanna or I book with you, Eden, or I book with Rebecca, the same me is who I'm booking across with that. Now, the reason why we do that is because there's information that is useful across the board, right? So if I am a frequent no-call, no-show or late scheduler, that is good info for you maybe to potentially know about. So what happens is that there's this score and it's out of 5. It's that behavior score. And you can utilize this score to say, is this someone I would actually want to take? And if so, then you can make a better, maybe we want to make them pay a deposit when other people don't have to, although Sting kind of takes care of that, which we'll talk about a bit later. or we don't want to take them at all, right, is also a potential. And so reviews are just a part of that. It's for service providers, it's for service provider safety, it's for all those different things. So yeah, no, we flip the script. You can review clients in Comb. Let's see here. So next section is services. So what we need to do is we'll take a look at these. So when we're thinking about services, generally, we're going to say, okay, well, what's the name of the service? So maybe this is a partial highlight as an example. Priority. This gets misused a lot. So the way that priority works is that what we're going to be doing is when somebody books online, right, you might want, when the appointment is created on your calendar, you might want to show this in a specific order. So maybe you want any type of haircut to always show after a color service, or maybe maybe you want the haircut to show before a color service, as an example. Priority gives weight to this, right? So you can make all your color services, let's say a 50 as an example, and then all your haircuts a 75. So what will happen is that no matter what order somebody books something, what will happen is that that will reshuffle. So 75 will show up at the bottom, and then 50 will show up at the top. So it'll show it in the order that you want them to see. So you don't have to go and reorder if that is something that bothers you. So again, it's about setting priority of how it's going to show. It's not priority of how they show up in this list. So, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Category. We also get asked a lot. So how do we make a new category? Because we have categories. And so the AI probably made some categories for you, but then how do we add additional categories? So if you want to create a new one, you do this again. So everything I'm doing here, you can obviously do on your phones. So what we'll do here is say, okay, well, this is a color services like V2. Where it says add, we're going to add, and we just continue making our service. What will happen is that when we hit save, this category will automatically get created. So now it'll be available for everything. So that's really the way that we handle category management. Descriptions, you can set any description you want, and photo. Now, if you can't think of a description, so let's say that we've got partial highlight. What you can do is you can say, oh, well, let's go ahead and hit that gray B. What happens, this is part of our large language model. So you'll be able to say, I need a description for a partial highlight. And maybe we want to make this informative and then pollinate. And then what will happen is that that will go ahead and generate out your description for you. So this is what will show on your online booking. Let's see here, prep notes. So prep and post appointment notes. So this is actually brought up a little bit earlier in the chat. Sarah actually brought this up. And it's about, I think it was Sarah, is talking about instructions. So this is going to go out as part of their reminder flows. So this is text message based though. So this could be shorter. So this is going to be just a chunk, right? So maybe we need somebody to show up with clean, dry hair. Yes, Jen, that will show up on online booking. Correct. So this is going to be more shorthand. And so it's going to say, show up with clean, dry hair, or, show up makeup free, right? Like maybe you're doing lashes. You don't want any eye makeup. So that would be another scenario. So this way they get reminded, hey, you need to show up this way. Now, post-appointment, a little bit less of a use case, as long as it's something that's shorter. In description, you can put that in there. Again, these are text-based. So you could say in there, stay out of the sun and, chlorinated pools as an example, or wait 48 hours before any activity or something like that. Now, understood that for a lot of things, we might need a longer format, which we'll be able to do in our instructions. So, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Now, note types, this is going to be that note level filtering I was talking about. So if we've got, maybe formula in general is what we want to show up. So what will happen when we create this service and we select these note types, when we look at the appointments in our calendar, those are the note types that we're going to see. So we're not going to see everything. We're only going to see the stuff that we need and is pertinent to performing this service. So again, it's not everything. And then we would filter that with those note types. Now, if you have a required waiver or form, and I have a lot of waivers, or a specific form that we would want, we could select those here. So those will be maybe like a color correction. You might have a specific waiver, or hair extensions also might be a specific waiver. When I'm thinking aesthetics, chemical peels would be a different waiver also potentially. So we would want to make sure again that we select those in these drop downs, so then not everybody's getting these, only if you're getting these services and if that's something that they need to sign and fill out at that time. Now, you can set up your calendars to be color blocked. So sometimes what people do is they'll select all the same color for like services. So all coloring services might be all the same, maybe like a light green, or you can set individual colors. And then on what will happen on the calendar, if you select, show color blocks, what will occur is that you'll see these color coded appointments. So at a glance, you can say, okay, oh, I know what this is, or I know what that is, right? So that'll give you sort of that visual cue as to what am I doing without having to go and actually read it. Hide from booking, that's just going to hide this from the online booking. Now, mobile service, if you toggle this, a couple things happen. One, when somebody's booking, it's going to want their address. So where are we going? So that's going to be number one. Number two, if someone books a mobile service, they can only book additional mobile services after that in your online booking. So it filters everything else out, right? Same thing, conversely, if they have something that's in-house, they couldn't add something that was a mobile in that same appointment. So it kind of locks those things out. So when you select that mobile, those are the types of services that we would now go ahead and book. Flexible price, you would go ahead and this, essentially what this says is the pricing for this service starts at this, and that's through the online booking. It doesn't really change anything per se, because you can always change the pricing on any service, that you want when you're doing checkout. But that gives you that option. And then high price from booking, most commonly used for very expensive services. So, again, extensions sticks out in my head as to something that, we don't necessarily want to show a price there because it might be different for everybody. If we want to take a deposit on this service, we would toggle deposit. And then what is it? Is it for new clients only, or is it for everybody every time? And then we can put our dollar amount in, or a percentage to say, okay, well, we always do 30% as an example. So that would be an option here as well. Initial discount, basically all this is let's say that every time when there's a new client, if they're booking a haircut for a first time, you always give them 25% off. You could go ahead and you could select that there, so the 25 in, and then what will happen is that will automatically deduct and put that discount on when you go to checkout for them. So, if that's a policy you have, that's sort of a nicety that just automatically does that for you. So total duration hours, total duration minutes. So that's just in totality, what start to finish, how long is this appointment? Now, time before processing and processing time, that's going to define our gap time if we want to be able to visually see, okay, here's where some processing may be happening. Maybe I could fit a haircut in here. That would set up. So time before processing is like when you're putting foils in, and then processing time is while they're doing that. So that would settle inside of your total duration of time. And we do it like this on purpose, which you'll see a little bit later. And then prep time, cleanup time. It's invisible padding right on either side of an appointment. So this way with online booking, they're not like this. And that's really the, that really is the use case. So we just don't want them showing up like this. We want that little bit of a buffer. If you unfortunately live in a state that does service tax, you can select, if there's options, you can select these here. Now, a lot of people ask, they think they have to toggle exclude from tax if they don't have any service tax, but the reality is that they don't have to do this. So you only need to toggle that if you set up a default tax for services. If you do not set up a default tax for services, then you don't have to toggle it because we have no default service tax, so nothing's going to happen. If we're defining an add-on service, then we would say, okay, no, this is actually an add-on. And then what's it an add-on for? Oh, these two things. And so what will happen now is when somebody books one of those two things that were in that dropdown online through online booking, this service will pop up. And it'll say, hey, so maybe let's say that this is an add-on haircut that we're making, right? So we'll associate it maybe with all our color services. And then when I'm going ahead and booking online, I'm gonna say, ooh, I want my balayage. And once I add that, we'll get the pop-up that says, hey, do you want to add on a haircut or a deep conditioning treatment or a K18 treatment? Whatever you want, you can do that. And then dependent service. So and there's actually some updates coming to this a little bit later, but really what this does at a glance right now is it stops people from being able to book something without having done something else first. So like, let's say for instance, extensions, you always require a consult beforehand. Or let's say another example, maybe a facial, no, not chemical peel. You would want a consultation beforehand, almost definitely. So you would select that consultation in this dropdown when I'm making that service. And so now if I've never booked this before and I'm booking online for the first time, it's going to make me book that consultation and come see you and get our one-on-one done before this unlocks so I can book it. So that will go ahead and take away the need for you to go ahead and put in your descriptions like book this before that or all of that, right? This sets rules up so this way your clients can have to book the right stuff in a specific order. Required for new clients. This only toggle this if first off, you only ever toggle this once. And this would be, so let's say this was a consultation we're making, like a consultation service. If you toggle this, that means any new client has to book this consultation first, right? You can see how if you toggle this in more than one location, how that might end up causing a problem. So you would only ever really toggle this once and be for something like a consult. And then last but not least, rebook weeks. What you want to do is you want to put the average in here. So let's say the average is 12. We would put that 12 in and we understand that everybody's different. But put the average in, and we'll talk about a bit later how this is used. It's actually used by one of our workers. So that so that put the average in and we'll kind of take care of the rest. Right now, if you're familiar, like with Gloss, you'll select your rebook weeks down, when you're going ahead and you're closing out that appointment. This sort of does those things automatically for you. And again, we would use a worker for this, which we'll talk about a bit later. So now, one other thing that I want to say, because we get this a lot, is so with online booking, how do we reorder? So firstly, uncategorized always show up at the top of your online booking. So when they're uncategorized, that's where they will be. Now, if you need to shuffle things around from a category level, you just hit the arrows and that will bring these up and down. Now, if you need to reorder within your category itself, you hit the 6 dots and then we can drag and drop. So that will put them in the order that they're shown here. So from left to right and then down, dependent on what you're on. Now, although we strive for parity across the board, Androids actually cannot do that type of drag and drop currently right now. So you have to do that from the web. So on your app, on your phone, if you go to your products, you're going to see, and again, I'm going to hold this up for you. You're going to see a scan button. And well, I hit a different button, but here's the scan button. What you can do with that is that you can scan your product in. So like if it was the first time that you're loading, let's pretend that I'm going to sell bubbly, right? If this is your first time ever selling this, you can scan the barcode that's on here and it's going to pre-fill with all the information about the product, like what we would see in here. So it's going to load in the photo. It'll load in, if we have the information, brand, category, description, name, barcode, obviously. And then what we're going to have option wise here is selling price, business cost, and our current stock, right? So we'll have this information. So that's a quick way to get things started and rocking and rolling. So that would be one option, is to scan them in. If you would like to just write them in, or you're on your computer, you would go ahead and you would just type the name of it in. Category is very similar again. So we're just going to go ahead and say, this is our, our shampoos, right? So add shampoos. We got our brands. I've got a Pulp Riot. Fine. Then we select our description. So those are all options. You would also create your brands the same way we create categories. And then, we would say that this is some kind of shampoo. Get our photo up. Get our description in. And again, you can see here we have our gray bee, and that will go ahead and pollinate our product description. Again, make sure if this is barcodable, make sure you have the barcode in, because when you're doing checkouts, you can just scan them as opposed to having to find them in the list. Our selling price, our business cost. How many do we currently have? Low stock trigger. So maybe at 3, we want to be made aware of it. Now, again, tax here. So this is going to be, if you set your default tax in the My Business area, then it will automatically use that. Now, let's say, for instance, that maybe 2 types of products have 2 types of taxes depending on where you're located. If that happens, select, if it's not default, select your other tax, right? So if this is like the 8%, and then the other product is, the other one is percentage for something else and not the default, then you're good to go there. And then repurchase weeks. So we do send repurchase reminders as well. So we've got the rebook reminders, right, at the service level, and we have the repurchase weeks. So that's going to tell somebody, hey, you have to buy, you got to re-up on your shampoo, or hey, you got to re-up on your conditioner. You can do those things, serums, moisturizers, whatever. You go ahead and you can do that, set that up. And then what will happen is that these will go ahead and they will send out for you by default. So, again, with one of our workers, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So again, put the average in here and then let us take care of the rest. So that really is, now if we have to adjust stock, we can scan it and then it'll pop up and say, how many do you have to adjust? Now, if you're not on the phone, like I'm not right now, you can hit the option and say, okay, well, we've added, a couple more in, and that will now adjust that stock. When we're looking at our waivers, what we could see is that we've got our options. Let's see here. These are the ones that we have. We could keep a signature on file. So this is my crappy signature. Always kind of recommended to have your signature on file in Comb. Reason being is that most states are 2-party states when it comes to waivers, contracts, that sort of a thing. And so we want to make sure that we stamp that contract with both your signature as a business representative and your client's signature. So that's sort of a part of it. Now, the other thing that is also important is that the way that our waivers get generated. So we take that signature and we do a double stamp, right? So we pop that on there. We date timestamp it. So it says, okay, this was signed on this day at this time. We turn it into a PDF. We lock it down with a cert so it can't be modified anymore. And we store a copy, right? So a copy gets sent and then we store a copy. So that is the way that you store these is just as important as getting the signatures on them, right? Because we want to make sure that we can say this has never been modified. This is the original document that this person signed. And so that's, again, a major difference because depending on what platform you're on right now, you might be repurposing forms as your waivers, which is really not the direction you want to go. You want to make sure this is something specifically built for taking contracts. So what we can do here, you've got options. You can create one by default, which is fine. And you can copy paste stuff in, you're okay there. If I were to hit create, you see I have my options. Now, let's hit back. If you have one maybe in PDF form, something like that, you can hit upload, and then we can choose to upload it, and it will automatically convert it into one that is comb ready. So that's option number 2. If we want to pollinate a new waiver, so if we hit pollinate, we could type in what this is. So what this is going to do is this is going to generate this on the fly for us. So let's say that I need a waiver for hair color, right? So when we hit pollinate, what will happen is it takes all the information it knows about you, everything about your business, anything about the services, your location, all that stuff. And waivers take a second to generate. They're not as fast as everything else. All that data, and then we go ahead and we generate one out. So at the bottom here, which I have a lot, if we go to hair color, this is what I just created. So this is our hair color waiver now. So at this point, we can say, okay, what's our frequency on this? I kind of tell everybody anywhere from 6 to 12 months, just have them sign it again. It doesn't hurt to have a fresh signature. Now, name, this is just for you. This is only your, you can name this anything you want. This is an internal name. So hair color version 2 waiver maybe. Header, this is going to show up at the top. So sometimes what will happen, AI kind of adds this extra stuff. I just like to go in and get rid of it. Now, if I go back, oh no, that's really big. This is all rich text though. So we could say, okay, go back to normal. So the header is going to show up on top. So maybe hair color waiver. And then acknowledgement. So this is going to be at the bottom. And then we've got our frequency. And then if this was required for any service, we would toggle this here. Otherwise, it would be at a service level, which we already went over. Now, this is kind of nice because this is rich text. So you could say, okay, I want to break these out a little bit. I want to give these a little bit of space. This is fine. This is why I kind of tell everybody, if you have a laptop or something, it's a lot easier to do these on there. All right, so we have that. Now, it does make some assumptions. So occasionally when you build these, the AI will sit there and say, oh, well, here's our refund policy or that, this and that. Now, it doesn't have all of that information, so it might make a guess. So make sure to read these if you use AI to generate them and make sure that they are good to go for you. But generally speaking, I like to tell everybody it gets you about 95% there. So, right, it gives you a really good launch point, basically gets you to the finish line, maybe a little bit before, and just go make some changes, get over that finish line, you're good to go. You do have options to put images in. Let's see here. Different types of formatting. I mean, this is all pretty obvious stuff. You can see that Hair by Mike is the business that thinks I am, so it's popping Hair by Mike in there. You do have those different options. Let's see. And then, I should have said, if this is ready to go, so you go over everything, this all looks good to go, because I didn't save. You want to make sure that you save and publish. And now this is available for you to attach to things or for it to automatically show up. Without publishing it, it won't show up. So we're going to talk about forms. So forms are going to be, so when we think waivers, Waivers are going to be things that we want signed by people, right? Contractual things. Forms are going to be things that we want to learn about people. So this could be information that we need to know about them, maybe prior to an appointment, something like that. And again, I will reiterate, because someone had asked, that you can send these out individually as well if you want. Now, you can pollinate these also. So this might be an excellent opportunity to do so. So let's say that we just need a general hair history. Might be something that we want to do. So let's go ahead and pollinate this. Now, for any estheticians on this, you can do that. This could be skincare routines. Nail artists, extension artists. You could come up with all of your own. And what's happened now is this is generated on the fly what we would see. So let's say this is going to be a general hair consultation. So consultation. So this is, again, this naming convention is just for you, so you know what this form is. Same thing, frequency. Most of the time, unless it's medical related, you would only do this really once. You're almost certainly not going to do this more than once. And then we can require for any service. If you need to copy, like let's say that you build out a form and you really like it and you're like, okay, but I want to make some modifications for something else, right? Like I've got this other form. I want all of these questions plus then some. You can actually copy from other forms and it will copy those into here. So this way you don't have to remake them or it basically duplicates that into this. So it gives you that opportunity. So what are our options? So we've got short answers, long answers, drop downs, checkboxes, multiple choice options. So choose ones, dates. We could do image embeds. So what that will do, so let's say that you've got a multiple choice question and you're saying, I need you to tell me is such thing this, this, or this. So let's say maybe we're talking about scalp conditions. It's going to be a little gross, but maybe you want to put on there, dermatitis or eczema or, let's see, dandruff, any type of thing like that. If you want to give them a visual understanding of maybe here's your options like A, B, C, and D, you can provide that. You can make an image and then you can embed that above that specific question. So this way they can visually see, okay, this is what I'm answering. Titles are going to give you sort of that sectioning out, right? So this is going to be like as an instance what the AI make. So general hair history was the section title it made up. Let's see if there was any other titles in here. It didn't make another title. Okay. Well, but you could break these out. So like maybe if you've got a hair, maybe you got one for hair care routine might be one versus, hair health, that sort of a thing. You could section them out. And then you also have the opportunity to create an image upload as well. So you can add that also. Now let's pretend that you've got your drop down. You say, oh shoot, I didn't mean for this to be, you built all this. I said, I didn't mean for this to be a drop down. I wanted this to be a multiple choice. Not that how would you describe your hair type would be that, but let's pretend that you did. What you can do is you can hit this little arrow swirly guy. And if you hit this, it will give you like types to change it to. So maybe you don't want to drop down. Maybe you want these all listed out. So you'll make it a choose one instead. Or maybe you want them to be able to select multiple. So multiple choice. So that flips it because it's a like type quickly for you. So then this way you don't have to go and recreate all of that again. So you have that option. So we have our question. You can say, okay, well, this specific question is required for them to fill out. Maybe there's other questions that are optional, but this one is a requirement. If you need to add an additional option, you can hit add option here, and then it will create that. And now you can say, hair type. Oh, new hair type. So now that is our new hair type. But if we want that above that, we can click and drag. And now this is now above the not sure. So this way you can resort, reorder. That's also how you could do these as well. So if I want to bring this all the way up, we can do that also. Let's see. So, and how did this do for us? It looks pretty good. Have you ever colored your hair? That one looks all right. Long answer. highlights, balayage, all over color, henna. That's also an option. So no, this actually looks relatively good. Again, I always like to say AI about 95% is where we get to. If you have ever experienced any hair loss or thinning. Interesting. All right, so then we've got our long answers, long options. I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't put, maybe I would add something. I'd be like, ooh, I want to add in a image upload. So that's been added, and then we can say, okay, this is, please upload an image of your current hair as an option. So this now becomes a part of that. These are relatively straightforward. These aren't overly complicated. You don't have to publish these like you do the waivers. They are automatically available if you want them to be. You can send them out individually. You can preview them, make sure that that's, it's looking the way that you want it. So that would be like a preview here. And then we can hit back to our forms. Marketing. Let me take a look at. I know that, some of these are relatively, and again, they really are straightforward, and I don't want to waste everybody's time on this Sunday. I want to make sure that we get through things that everybody really needs some decent help on. So I'm just going and looking here real fast. All right, we could talk about these real quickly. Let's see. We do marketing audiences. So when we're creating an audience, we could say, okay, well, we can set our client filter, or we could say client select, right? So we go, okay, these are our VIPs, right? So we'll create our audience based on that. Something just dropped in my office. We create our audience based on that. Let's see here. Kind of scared me. We can see that we have some analytics. So these were emails. So how many were sent, how many were opened, how many were clicked. If we create a campaign, you can see we have options of email campaigns, text campaigns, image text campaigns. If we do a text campaign, we could pop our campaign name in. What audience are we going to be doing? So maybe it's just to me, or maybe it's to everyone. Set our text reminder, or a text message. And then we could schedule this if in the future, if you want. So we can say, okay, well, this is going to go out on, the 28th at 4:30, which is fine. So you can schedule these both. You can schedule these for text campaigns, image text campaigns, and email campaigns. Again, this is another good example of, oh, well, I don't know what to write. So we could pollinate these, and we can select between which are these doing, what's our tone, pop in our campaign prompt, and then pollinate it. And then that will automatically create that campaign for us. So, and again, we can schedule these out. Emails are unlimited, so we do not have any restrictions on those. The text messages, we give you 500 per month. If you need more than 500 for campaigns, then you would potentially have to buy more. Now, that 500 does not count against anything transactional, right? It's only for when you come in here and say, I'm going to create a campaign. If there was a campaign that you sincerely liked, you can hit this yellow button here for, let's say, fall savings, and this will duplicate this out for you. So it will pre-fill with everything you had done before, make your tweaks, any changes you want to make, and then we can send it. So we can duplicate these if we want. And then unlike some other platforms that will remain nameless, we do not count messaging that we cannot send against your totals. So if we cannot send them, we do not count them against the total. Now, if you had done a demo with me, you would know that I talked about instructions. Now, instructions have recently gotten a bit of a facelift. So let's talk about those. Under documents, you will notice instructions no longer exists. We now have automations below it. Instructions has turned into our new automations section. So all the same things apply. So when you go to pollinate an automation, this is still going to create a post-appointment or pre-appointment automation. So you're going to say hair color post-appointment, and then that will give you your aftercare information, which is exactly how I've kind of shown everybody up until this point. Now, there are some significant changes though. So we're going to go and create an automation and we're going to see what's changed. So now it did automatically say new instruction. We are going to have to update that. So it put that in automatically, but this would be a new automation. So if we create something, this might be our, post-appointment. Thank you. And then we could set our subject. This is going to be post-appointment, and then maybe 1 hour after appointment. And then we would toggle any service. So any service is a new thing. So this is what was over here, our post-appointment emails and texts. This is replacing that. So we're going to say, okay, I want to do an email. It's just automations, Jackie. In the main menu, you're going to hit automations, and then you can go and create from here. So by default, these run as email. So anybody that is familiar with instructions, you will know that these run as emails. Well, part of us turning them into automations, we now will do text. So here's the way that the text work against the email. So when you build your instruction out over here, you know that it's got rich text, you can put images in, you can do all kinds of stuff. So that obviously cannot fit into a text message. So when we went ahead and we changed up between email and text, you can see that this changed from subject to text message. So this is your actual message. So you might say something like, so let's say this is post-appointment. Thank you. And you might say, thank you so much for visiting. And then we're going to go post-appointment, 1 hour after appointment. And then we're going to say this is for any service. And then we can put in what message we want, right? So we can build that out. And then when we create this, what will happen is when that checkout happens, and it's an hour after that appointment, your client's going to go ahead and they're going to get a text message that says, thank you so much for visiting, with a link. And that link is going to go to your online booking page and render out anything that you have in this automation display. So if we did a pollinate, let's just do a pollinate on this one. So let's go post-appointment and we'll go hair color. It's fine. It's kind of a common one that I do, so not an issue. So what will happen is that this will go ahead and generate out our email, because that's what it knows. So we're going to say this is our post-appointment hair color. And we're going to say hair color, care instructions. Care instructions from Hair by Mike. And now we're going to say, we can say text message, right? And so this is where it's going to be sent. We're going to say 1 hour after, and then this is going to be for color services. So we would select color services. And then this, what we have over here, which is all of our aftercare information, would get rendered out on your online booking page via a link that gets sent out with text message. Jackie, I assume I could create a beautified doc in Canvas. Are you talking about Canva? Canva. So you could create one there, yes. And most of the time I would tell you, I would embed. So when you create a Canva, you're going to have your image link. I would embed that in the display, and then that would render in the link, which is what gets sent out. So that would automatically get rendered out. That's the way that I would do it. Or we could go email, right? So then your email is going to get sent out as an email, and that's going to render out exactly as they have been. What's nice about the update is that we can create automations for new clients only. So if you only want to go ahead and send out this aftercare just for new clients, or if you have a pre-appointment message, so let's say we go pre-appointment and we want this to go out maybe 4 hours before the appointment, and this might be instructions on how to get to my location. I only want to send that out one time to new clients. You can now create that as well. So again, you can see how these changes went from instructions, which was generally, we were thinking general care, maybe aftercare, pre-care, has sort of extended into, okay, I could do a lot more stuff with this than I used to be able to. And so that's why we kind of transform them into automations as a whole. So gift certificates. If you want to enable them, you can do that in your My Business area. And this is actually also where you would set up your silent appointments. So you can go ahead, you could toggle each of these on if you chose. And once gift certificates is enabled, that allows your client to purchase them off your website. Now, when someone purchases them, they have the option to gift them, so they can be texted, and you can apply them to client profiles. So you can get to them under the finances section, and you can go to gift certificates. Now we can see that we've got 2 on here for me. If you want to create one ad hoc, you absolutely could do that. So you can say, oh, I'm going to create a gift certificate, select the client it's associated with, what's its original value versus current value. This is really nifty if you're coming over to Comb for the first time, you have gift certificates still in the old system, and you want to make sure that they could be applied here. So Iva, you would hit your main menu, and you would hit the finances button. Which will expand out or the finances option in that main menu. And then you would hit gift certificates from there. And when we go and we create the gift certificate, you're super welcome. When we go and create the gift certificate then, and this is really nice because you can bring these over then, right? So if you have those, and then if you want to reset your from and to emails, you can absolutely do this. This will go ahead and send an email out. If you have them in here and they're not assigned to clients, you can certainly do that. I do have this assigned to myself, and this is now basically associated with me as a client. What's nice about that is, so if we go over to appointments and we say, okay, well, I'm going to check this appointment out now, we can now see that we have our use existing gift certificates as an option. So if we're doing a straight checkout, from this point, we can say, all right, so if we need to modify the original appointment, we can hit edit original. That will take us, we can modify them, and then we would come right back in here. If it's something that we don't want to have associated with the appointment, but we still want to check that out, we can add additional services, we can add additional products. If you're on your phone, you can scan your product and that will automatically bring it in. You can also do packages from here as well. If we are taking a payment that's, and I'm going to make this more of a reasonable dollar amount, it's just set to $100. If we're taking a payment from outside of Comb, we would say other payment, and we can select, is this cash? Is this Venmo? Is this Zelle? Is this Square? So what are our options? We can go ahead, we could pop that, we could set the dollar amount, maybe we say $50 in cash, and now we can add that as a payment. You can see this is also how we could do a split payment. So if $50 came in, we still have options for cards. Now, if we want to use, remaining gift certificate, we can certainly do that. So we select add a gift certificate, and now we're completely, we can see we use $50 from the gift certificate and $50 from cash, and then we can close that out. Now, if we want to do a key-in card, we can absolutely do that here. If we want to do a stored card checkout, we could do this, select our stored card. Now, this is part of our new flow. Okay, so when we do this, it's going to say hand device to customer. hand device to customer. What will happen is it's going to say hand it over. They're going to hit start, and then they're going to go ahead and select their dollar, percentage here for their tip. And then they're going to hit next, and then we're going to capture their signature. Now, what's interesting about this is that we actually do store that signature from that point. So it's a little bit different than our competitors. So the reason why a lot of competitors take the signature is to give a reason, like I'm handing a device to you and I don't want to ask you about tip. So this is a reason, because we have to grab your signature for this. But it's throwaway. So a lot of the times it's not actually stored. We do store them for you, and they are associated with the actual transactions. So what will happen is if someone tries to dispute it, we do keep that additional information, which we can then help present as far as a dispute, kind of going back and saying, this is not okay. I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of it right now. Well, we're saying that the dispute is not valid, I guess. So we would utilize that for that. Now, if we wanted to do a text-based checkout, all we would do is we would hit text checkout. We have a phone number here. We would hit send text. That would go to your client, and then they would go ahead and they would finish the checkout on their own device. So I can actually do that real fast, because this is going to be a text message to me anyway. And then what will happen is I will get my text message, which I got, and I can finish it on my device. Now, I would keep it on this screen, just like if you were to send this to a reader, something like that. This will automatically, when paid, show with a green checkbox, and then you'll know that it's completed. You get probably 2 other notifications as well, text message and a push notification. Let me look at some of these questions here. So how do gift cards pay out to us? Are they time of purchase or time of service provided? Great question, Jackie. So right now they're at time of purchase. However, with a new feature coming out called Honeypot, that's going to allow you to hold gift certificates back. So then they will get distributed at the time of service rendered when you apply them. So the money wouldn't have been actualized until it was, paid per se via, the redemption. So right now, time of purchase, coming up with Honeypot, you're going to be able to hold that back. Can gift certificates be purchased online? Iva, absolutely. When you enable it, it automatically shows up on your website, and they can buy them straight from there. And Jessica, does trade count as 0? Trade is interesting. So yes, it's still going to have a dollar value associated with it, but it allows you to go ahead and say, this would have been my actualized money, but we're able to kind of pop that outside of a report, right? So then, okay, this was not counted as monies coming into the business. Yes, correct, Jessica. Yes. Yep. Yeah, no, I totally got it. I knew what you said there the first time, so don't worry about that. Sarah, am I in 10% tip was automatically, so I can change that to show as 0 as it did on your end just now. Yes, absolutely. Sarah, that is in the My Business area, and you would go to checkout in there. So you hit the blue button, go to checkout, and you can select your different defaults. You could put a 0, you could put a 10, 15, 20. Okay, so anybody here that if you're not seeing text checkout, if you're not seeing gift certificates, if you're not seeing some of these things, my guess is that you don't have Stripe connected yet, which is our payment processing partner. The way that you would do that is within your app, there's an integrations area, and you'll see Stripe. You would go ahead and you would hit the gray connect. Now, mine's connected, but you would hit the gray button that connect, and then that will go ahead, and then we can do payment processing once you get that completed. So if you don't see these things, this is 100% the reason why you're not seeing them. So once that's connected, you'll be able to go ahead and do gift certificates or text-based checkouts or any of that. Talk about workers. So for anybody here that's new and you've never, let's say that you've never ever used Comb before, or you've set it up maybe partially, but you've never done a demo with us, and this is your first interaction with us, you might not be aware of our workers. So what these do is these are going to be part of our assistant automation flows. And really, they're to do things for you kind of automatically, so you don't have to do them. And so I'm going to go over these right now to give you all some updated information. So Waggle. So we're going to start here, and I'm just going to go down each column. Waggle, what does this do? Basically, it checks at the top of your week on Sunday. It's going to say, okay, well, where are my openings for that week? And it's going to try to find clients that need appointments. Now, it does not go through every, it doesn't pick everybody, right? It looks for specific criteria. So people that have ignored rebooking reminders, haven't pre-booked, these aren't quite re-engagements where you would think, okay, well, I haven't seen them for 6 months and I have to re-engage them somehow. So in those circumstances, you might want to offer somebody like a discount, that sort of a thing. That is more of a marketing message that you would send out. Waggle is just like a gentle nudge, like, hey, you kind of went over a little bit, you haven't booked, let's get you back in here, right? So that would be a message that you might send manually that's now been automated out. I'm gonna ping pong. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ping pong back and forth. I'm not gonna go down each column, back and forth. So guard. What this does is that this is going to try to charge and enforce your no-show and cancellation policies. So you'll pop your percentages in here, and when this is turned on, if you hit no-show or client cancel on someone, it's going to ask you, hey, do you want to put this into the guard flow? If you say yes, then it will put it into our jobs that, it doesn't charge right away. So some people have asked that, where it says, well, does it charge right away? Well, no, it's a part of our jobs process. So it's going to try it later. And if successful, you will be made aware. If not, what will happen is it's going to try it the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. It's going to try to do this all the way through. If we get to the end of that time frame and they haven't paid it, right? They just haven't, they've ignored it, or we can't charge them, then they're forced to pay it through the online booking. So this way, we tried to make sure that you recover this money the best that we can. Echo is a brand new worker, just released 2 weeks, Eden. Echo is a brand new worker that we just released. And what it does is it rewrites all transactional messaging coming out of Comb. So think, hey, you have an appointment coming up, on Monday, May 19th, 2025, at 2:00, as an example. Or, hey, you got to pay a deposit, or things of that nature. When echoes turn on, it rewrites all of it in your voice. So this gear down here, which is our, this is our settings area. You can say, tell it a messaging style. So what are ways that I say these different things? So, hey, you got an appointment in a couple days, or you need to pay your deposit, please pay as soon as you can, or hey, you got to pay your bill, here's the link to checkout. Those sorts of that sort of messaging. Give us examples of that. And what we'll do is we'll use that, Echo will use that to rewrite these things and make them sound that they're more like you. It's just to add a bit of personalization to something that is otherwise very robotic. And this is in anticipation of something later on also this year that we will announce at some point. Tend. This is our rebook reminders. Now, someone asked earlier about what if that person rebooking is all over the place, right? Like there is no true cadence. That's okay. We do learn that this person's chaotic, and then we'll err on the side of caution when it comes to reminding them that they have to rebook. But Tend basically learns their booking behaviors. It learns their booking behaviors when it's maybe you've got hair color and cut but then cut by itself has a different cadence to then when those two things are put together. And so it learns those different behaviors from those clients based on what, based on their uh, habits, and it will send them out very uniquely just for them. And again, if we notice chaos, it does err on the side. We're going to mess with them a bit earlier, as opposed to, maybe like a week before. So it does take some liberties, dependent, but that is 10. And the hope is that you never have to set those again, right? Like it just learns over time. If it's someone brand new, we're going to use that average that was set on the service level. Swarm is probably our most popular feature, I would guess, right now as it stands. So when you turn Swarm on, what this does is it's like having a receptionist. So if anybody here has ever like called a doctor's office and they sit there and say, like, oh, we only have a 9 and a 9:30, but that's not true. Like it's almost certainly you have options later on that day. But what will happen is they're trying to build their day out around these other appointments, so they don't have these gaps that they have to fill later. That's what Swarm does. So when you say, okay, I'm going to make this lax, it's going to, at its core, it's always going to be building around other appointments. Now we're on version 4 of this already, and we only released it like 2 months ago. And that's just because real world data is more than we had when it came to our beta testing. And so Lax is going to give your clients a couple of options. So maybe like a 10, 10, 15, 10, 30 versus Snug right there, right? Like there's no give. We're building out around these other appointments and there it's going to be locked in. And then start in morning if no appointments. And morning's not the right word. It's just if there's no appointments that day, and maybe you start at like 2 in the afternoon, right? Like this is still applicable. It's just whatever that first slot is when toggled, that's their option, right? They can't just book anywhere when there's no appointment to build off of. So the way that I have this set up is the strictest of them, meaning no openings. The option is, let's say you open at 9, that's your option. And then the next person that goes to book online, their option might be 10 or 11 o'clock, right? Whenever that other service ends or the other appointment ends. So we're building these things out. Sting. So that score I was telling everybody about in the very beginning, so that client score, it's out of 5. So when they do no-shows, late cancels, things like that, it brings that score down. Reviews are factored into this as well. Sting will automatically adjust deposit amounts based on their behavior. So if you don't require any deposit, but what happens is their score is low and they have no shows, it will create a deposit for them. But let's say that you have a $25 deposit. That's the lowest it could be for us then with Sting, and it could only go up from there. And depending on their behavior, it could be basically a pre-book or a prepay. Quite seriously. You have to get really bad to get to that, and hopefully by that point you would have fired them anyway. Lyft will go ahead and upsell for you. So if you do things like deep conditioning treatments, K18 treatments, I'm trying to think of some other things here. Red light therapy, that sort of deal. Lyft keys into that. And so what it does when I'm booking online, let's say that Eden, I'm booking online for you. What will happen is it'll say, okay, well, what's in my appointment already? So what's in there? What services are in there? And then it'll say, how much time am I spending with you? How much money am I spending? And then it will pick things that are, that are good upsells. So things that are sort of pseudo related or are complementary. And it will suggest those to me before I go to do my final, pick my date and time. So that will go ahead, get in my face. So hopefully it boosts that average ticket sale for you. Wingman is probably my favorite feature, and it remembers the details about your appointments. So let's say, for instance, I have really long, dark, thick hair, right? As an example, and I come and I say I want a balayage, right? So my timing is almost certainly different than any other services that are whatever the average is. So you would adjust my time, right? So now what will happen in the systems you're currently on is that when they book again online or you book for them, it will use that average time again. Well, Wingman remembers that and will automatically put in the new timing, not that old average timing, the original timing. So it makes it unique per client for their services and their service timings. Now, I do want to make a point here because someone had asked, hey, Alyssa, we'll talk about that here in just a moment. Someone asked, so I charge clients differently based on loyalty or other factors. Is there a way to show a different service menu for some clients and customize who sees what? So the reality is that Wingman, there's an update coming that will take care of that for you, which will include pricing. So when you make those adjustments, if that is their price going forward, then it will know that and automatically apply it. So I think that new feature that is upcoming will fix this problem for you here. So I want to make sure I made a mental note when I saw it that is sort of related. Let's see. Forage, that's for repurchase reminders. So at the product level where we had the repurchase weeks, that is that average repurchase weeks. Forage, just like Tend, there's a lot of names here. Just like Tend, what Forage will do is it will learn your clients' purchasing behaviors, and then it will remind them, hey, you have to buy this shampoo or you have to buy this conditioner, right? Because we want to remind them to come on in and buy these things. So Forage will take care of those for you. Drift is our waitlist, which has gone through quite a few iterations over the past, let's say, 6 months. And there are more updates for it coming. As it stands right now, Drift will utilize it. In order to have the waitlist at all, you have to turn Drift on. After that point, you can let AI handle it. So we're looking at things like the score, what services they're trying to book, what total amounts of dollar amounts they're spending, and it's going to select people that it thinks are the best choice for this. Now, you of course can always manually override that and say, hey, Alyssa, you're on the wait list. I'm going to go ahead and send you a direct message and say, hey, I've got an opening this Friday. Do you want it? So you could use the AI exclusively. You could do all the booking yourself. You could have a combination. You've got those choices. Nurture sends out seasonal messages. So this might be like a marketing message you would send out, but we're doing this automatically for you. So it's going to send out in transitional months. So going into spring, going into summer, going into fall, going into winter, since everybody is slightly different. Well, I should say slightly different. Since everybody, generally speaking, will do sort of bigger changes when we go from season to season. That's when we want to remind them, like, hey, books might be getting filled up. Come on in soon. And so that's what Nurture does. So it's going to try and give people a gentle nudge. It does not send it to your entire client list that we have to have seen them 52 weeks before, or they have to be pre-booked at some point 52 weeks ahead. So you're going either direction. It also sends out birthday messaging as well. So just happy birthday messages. And last but not least, Vouch. So Vouch will send out I kind of said it a little bit earlier, in the post-appointment messaging, we kind of recommend not to put your review links into your post-appointment messaging because not everybody needs to be reminded that they can review you. So Vouch will only send review links to people that are statistically likely to leave you a good review. And there is a lot that sort of kind of goes into that. And people ask us all the time. I can't really tell you the algorithm, but it's very accurate. So highly recommended. Just let Vouch do its thing. did want to talk about a new feature that was just launched. And I'm going to talk about it a little high level. And I'll talk about kind of where it's going a little bit. So again, for some of you, you're brand new to Comb. So you might not know about all these different things that we offer, but Chirp is brand new. And this is now going to be, this is now an option for both, desktop and mobile. And what this is going to do is going to give you messaging information. So any message that gets sent out of Comb to your clients will end up in here. So you can filter by type, you can search by name or by phone number. So if somebody messages you and said, I didn't get a message, you can go and you can reference this and see, okay, well, what's been going out, what's gone out. Especially this is super useful because under our workers, a lot of things are dynamically generated. And so people ask us a lot like, okay, well, what was the message that got sent out? I'd love to see it. And so this brings sort of an unprecedented level of insight into, okay, what was sent out to what client at what time and what did it actually say, right? So this gives some baseline analytics about, over the past 7 days, how many were sent, what types, was it bookings, reminders, cancellations, confirmations, how many were sent today, when was the last one that was sent? And then you can see that we've got all these different types with additional types being added. We actually don't have all message types in here yet. This was what we have released so far. Now, coming up in the future with Chirp, what will be available? You'll be able to do resends from here. You'll be able to check statuses. So did it get actually delivered, right? So what actually happened? Especially on the text message side, was there an error? If there was an error, what was the error? Oftentimes people will unsubscribe and they will tell you that they have not unsubscribed. But no, Jackie, these are pure notifications. So appointment logs are going to be under Scout. So this is Scouts for appointments. Chirp is for notifications. So messages that are coming out of Comb. So this will be all of that. So you'll be able to say destination because people will say, oh, well, I never opted out. And then you'll be able to see at a glance here, oh, actually, in fact, you did opt out by messaging. So this is what you have to do to get unopted out. Or sometimes people have their phones turned off, and then we'll have specific error codes for that too. So you'll be able to see all those things. So you don't have to reach out to us and ask us, hey, did this go out? So again, this gives you sort of an unprecedented look at to what is actually happening in communication going out. And again, this is really nice when we think about our workers where the messages are dynamically generated on the fly, right? So you don't have insight into them. You didn't design them. And so they are generated out by AI. So, okay, well, what the heck is actually being sent to my client? This also gives you an opportunity to look, okay, I'm using Echo and I fed it some options, right? This is how I want my messaging to come off. How is that translating, right? So is it reading the way that I would like it read? And then you can make adjustments from there. So again, it's really, really nice. Gives you a lot of new information that you did not have before.